Nasser Hussain.
That's the best introduction I've had.
That's who that is. He's that guy. Why am I sweating? I'm so scared to talk to him. He scares many people, but he's not really. You're not really scary, are you? Are you? Do you?
Well, I apologise. I didn't realise you were videoing this, so I've not really dressed up like you have.
I'm not dressed up. Well, this is not called dressed up. I'm just like.
I'm full on casual.
Yeah, I just came from the gym actually.
Right, okay,
Inspired by you, I saw you going there.
Okay.
Decided I'd go and put a session in. So hence the beads. Don't worry about that. Anyhow, thanks for doing this.
That's right.
I appreciate it. I wondered what we would talk about actually, and I thought I'd take you back to being captain of England. When I say that, what happens inside you?
My first reaction is always the bad old days, and then you actually realise that it was probably the best part of your career. Really.
Right.
I mean, firstly, as you know, playing is always the best bit. Playing, dressing rooms, teammates is always the best bit, and then to captain your country or captain England, to go out and the bloke on the tannoy system, and now leading out England, Nasser Hussain and the Barmy Army singing Nasser Hussain's Barmy Army and whatever the score, and we had good days and bad days, but you know, they're the things you absolutely miss and you loved at the time. I think Mike Brearley wrote in his book, you don't realise how good the England captaincy is until it's not there anymore. And then the next day when Michael Vaughan's captain and you're not, and there's, you know, the Barmy Army is singing Michael Vaughan's Barmy Army, it's then that you realise, geez, that was a good job, even if it had some dark days and difficult days.
Before you become captain, do you want it? I mean, and when I say want it, you mentioned playing and kind of enjoying being in a change room, and it transitions, doesn't it? At first, you're kind of just happy to be in the team, and then for some, it transitions to you are in the team, and then you have an opinion on how things should go, and your opinion can be strong enough or not, or valued enough for you to be. So give me that process and how that kind of works for you.
Yeah, the whole process for me was the same, and I don't lie about this in any way. I'm not being humble or anything. It's like all the way through my career, even before being a professional cricketer, all I was trying to do was get into the next team. So if I was Essex under 11s, get enough wickets and runs to get into Essex under 12s, 13s, and then there was a bit of sort of looking around, what's Mark Ramprakash doing, what's Michael Atherton doing, what's Graham Thorpe doing. They're getting into the England school side. I want to get into the England school side. And then before you know it, like you're playing, Essex are ringing you, giving you a contract. And so you just, for me, it was always the next stage, the next stage, the next stage. And then suddenly, you know, Graham Gooch is tapping you on the shoulder saying, do you want to come to the Caribbean? I'm like, well, I really get on well with you, Gray, but I don't really want to go on holiday. Like, no, face the West Indies, great. Let's go and do that. So I wasn't like a Kevin Peterson or a Darren Gough. Darren Gough, who I played with, he felt to the manner born. That's what he felt he was born to do, open the bowling for England. He knew where every camera was in the ground. Right. That's what he was supposed to do. You felt the same. I never played with KP, but you felt that's how he lived his life. There were people like that. Yeah. For me, it was always like, pinch yourself, I'm playing for England. And then David Graveney rings me up and goes, we'd like you to be the next captain of England. It's like a pinch yourself moment, really. Yeah. So you pick up your phone, you ring your dad and go, they'd like you to be captain of England, sort of thing. You know what I mean? The sacrifices mum and dad made to come over from India to England for the family, and like you could, you know, the tears on the other end of the phone. So that's why I say what a special job it was, because it wasn't something I went after. And I was vice captain to Stewart and to Atherton, and I always felt you have to be loyal as vice captain. If you're like looking for the job, I don't think you are. I don't think you're doing your job, to be honest.
So then, how does that go? So how does the conversation with Stewie go? Because I'm assuming one of your calls has to be to him.
Yeah, I think actually I was very lucky because the two of them, the two previous captains, I felt immediately actually came to me, that, you know, and were very supportive. And I think Stewie, Ath gave it up. We were bowled out in a session by Ambrose and Walsh in Antigua, and Ath gave it up. So he was done with it. But I think Stewie was a bit hard done by. It was that famous series against South Africa, which we won, that series full of umpiring controversy, and then we won at Headingley and we won the series. Within 6 months, Stewie had lost the captaincy, and I just felt he was a bit But I also felt Stewie being Stewie, anyone who knows the gaffer,
yeah.
he will always, the next game, the next captain, he just wants to play for England, get runs, take his catches, win games for England. So I fully had their support. You wouldn't expect anything else of those two characters, to be honest.
Do you remember game one and what you felt as captain?
Good question. This was a difficult time because I was just brought in as captain, but Duncan Fletcher was brought in as coach, but he didn't want to do it. He was being very loyal to Glamorgan and still had a contract to see out. So he went, I'm not turning up until I finish my Glamorgan con. And there was so many things going on behind the scenes. Some of the selectors wanted to axe every single player, you know, new captain, vice captain, new coach, chairman of selectors and all this. So there was a lot going on behind the scenes in English cricket, as there often is. Central contracts were coming in. So it was almost trying to park that, wait for Duncan Fletcher to turn up. And we played New Zealand. I think my first game was the Alex Tudor game. And Tudor's got 99, not out or whatever.
I like how you call it the Alex Tudor
Yeah,
game.
he'll like that as well.
Yeah, he will as well.
I think he'd have preferred it if it was a 100 Alex Tudor game. But it was the 99 not out Alex Tudor game. So I think it started well. I might be wrong here, but didn't end well because then New Zealand beat us at the Oval, and we were then, at that stage, when we lost to New Zealand at the Oval, we were officially ranked the worst side in the world. Official. I mean, a lot of people were saying that anyway, but we were official that. And I remember Duncan Fletcher saying to me, you lads are now, you're not the best side in the world, which was obvious, but you shouldn't be the worst side in the world. With everything that English cricket has going for it, you shouldn't be the worst side in the world. Right. So we slowly had to try and work our way up.
You are credited with bringing stability, bringing a steeliness to England, which I think that's kind of people, I think you were steely enough, the other captains were steely enough, and execution is not necessarily a lack of that, but and many other things, sort of solidifying things. Method, do you remember what you kind of set out to do and whether you managed to tick those boxes?
I mean, first of all, central contracts, absolutely vital. In our system in England up until then, you played for your county, and occasionally England would ring you up and say, you'd come and play, and you'd look at how much you've been paid and whose sunglasses were you getting, sunglasses of Lammy and Oakley, or Judge Robin Smith was giving you Bolle sunglasses. You'd look at your Gray Nichols contract, oh, another 500 quid because you're playing a test match. And then you'd wait until Radio 5 would announce whether you were in the next side or not. Wow. So it was a bit, and more important than all that stuff, like people like Angus Fraser and Darren Gough and Andrew Caddick and Devon Malcolm all used to turn up exhausted because they'd been bowling 50 overs all week for their county. So central contracts vital. It made you feel like an England player. So we suddenly felt like England players. Bowlers were being rested. Batters would play when Duncan said. Then we made a point in selection to select on character. Didn't really matter. There's a lot, and I know now we'll get like 50 messages today about stats and all this. Yeah. And the same was in selection. You would be sat around, it wouldn't be on a laptop, it would be papers of averages and everything. And we made it like, okay, Duncan would go, yeah, okay. The only stat he was interested in, what speed was the bowlers. That's all he was interested. He didn't want medium dobbers. He wanted to build that 2005 Ashes fast bowling attack. But for me, it was about the character of people. So I'd turn to Goffey and say, what do you see? You're the character I'm looking. What do you see in the teammate that you want in character? And he pointed to Thorpe. He went, look at that lad over there. When we're 20 for 2, I can, and Goffey's on the physio's bed, I can look at him walking out the dressing room and he's got it in his eye that he'll be up for a fight. That's the sort of character. So it didn't really matter how many runs you were getting for your county, how many wickets. When you're facing McGrath, Warne, Donald, Pollock, Wasim, Wacker, all these great bowlers, what are you going to be like at 20 for 2? When suddenly Australia are 100 for none and the skipper's throwing you the ball, what are you going to be like? You're going to bottle it. So we started to pick on character. And I guess as a captain, my main thing was, like as a player, just try and be the best you can be. You know, try and realise playing for your country, you should be at every stage giving you everything. When you retire, you should have said, I've given it everything. It sounds like an obvious thing to say.
I get you.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
Some people, you know, like, I'm not saying you coast, but playing for your country is important. So try and get across to people. However many times they feel like they've been a bit hard done by, playing for England or playing for your country is absolutely vital. Now, there were some that I'd like to have taken on the journey longer, who I really believed in, like Hick and Ramprakash were two that I watch. I grew up with Ramps, and Ramps scored shed load of runs forever. Hickey the same. I remember watching him get 400, 300, but almost by the time I took over, the mental scarring and baggage of everything they'd been through, we couldn't get them through the other side of, you know, put all that behind you. This is a new regime. We're going to back you. So others came in, Vaughan, Trescothick, classic two people you just picked on, didn't pick on their stats. They averaged 35 in 30, Tres, I think, in domestic cricket. But Dunk had seen him get 200 against Glamorgan and said, right, I want this lad. So we started to pick on the character of the individual more than the stats.
Has that gone full circle? It seems
Good point, actually. Yeah. They're picking pace like Duncan wanted. I often see this side and see they're picking pace like he would have wanted. They're not looking at stats as much. I don't think we pushed it as much as this present regime have done.
You certainly didn't say so in the press.
No, I don't think it
wouldn't have gone down so well.
This is a unique. This present hierarchy is unique, and I like them for it. They've stuck right. They've not blinked. Right, we're a month away from the Ashes. They have not blinked in any department, and what they want, they have not moved away from that. So I quite like that in any organisation or any leader. You can listen to so many people and then suddenly chop and change.
Yeah,
they have stuck to their road.
Ashes. Can you remember? He's got a terrible memory, but can you remember the first time you get a sense of the magnitude of the Ashes?
It's a hard one, that, because as an individual, for me, because of my old man, my dad was very much every game of cricket is important. So even if I was playing like a benefit game for Essex, you know, John Lever benefit game, I'd be wanting to score runs and do well and win.
Right.
You know, a few others would be on the beers and whatever and just having a laugh. So that was my dad's instill that in me. Every game of cricket, the old saying of, you know, it's more than life and death, the game of cricket, that old stuff. It's not, it's only a game. No. So for me, it didn't matter who we were playing against. It was the most important game. So the Ashes was just, for me, that little bit more. But you obviously knew it was the Ashes. I grew up watching Beefy in 81, Bob in 81, and the reaction, brilliant, and the captaincy and all that. I grew up Gower and watched how important Ashes cricket is to England, and also how important it is to a captain. You are judged on your Ashes. Look at Vaughan in 05, whatever. So you are judged on your Ashes. So as a player, it was one thing. As a captain, you realise that you're going to be judged on this and make sure you prepare for it. I don't think there was a specific moment. It's just a gradual, you know, and also in cricket, if you try not to build something up too much, if you build it up too much, then I think you fall over a little bit. So for me, don't build it up too much. It comes as a bad time for England. It's often Ashes and then World Cup. And we, going into my away Ashes, the famous, I'm going back to Brisbane in a month's time.
I said nothing.
I wonder what they'll be talking about that day.
You're going to be sledged in the combo.
Exactly.
Anyway,
so there was so much chaos going on, so many injuries, so many things going on. You just take your eye off the game for 1 second, like I did in Brisbane, and it can jump up and bite you in the backside. So you do have to, it's a great lesson that you do have to, at all stages, whatever's going off the field, don't try and reinvent the wheel on the field.
Balance as player, but I also want you to talk about it from your personality and upbringing, because it sounds to me like balance is difficult. So if you're growing up kind of learning and knowing that every game's important, every innings needs runs, it makes for an intense guy, which you, as a player, you were very much so. And you wonder, so from the side, you're wondering, you know, is that guy okay? Is he always up there? Is that possible? I know for others, is this guy always down here? Does he take anything seriously? But, you know, speak about that.
That's a good balance. Good question. Very good question. And it's not something you can get right, because some of it is innate. How you are, you're a product of your environment. So I do think that the getting that right balance is right. I remember Beefy and Botham saying to me when I was a nervous cricketer, and he said to me, "You've got to try and make out it's just another game of cricket when you know it's so much more than that." You know, playing for England, first morning of a test match, you've got to make out it's just I'm playing cricket. It's just a bit of fun. You know, Joe Root does that very well. When you ask Joe, why is he always smiling on a cricket field? He says, when I always think about when I was growing up at Sheffield Collegiate, playing club cricket, school cricket, someone has said you're going to be playing for England, I'd be smiling and loving every minute of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that balance right. The one time I did get it right was my last test when I went to Duncan's room. Strauss came in, and I knew this was me done. Vaughan had to come back in the side. I went to Duncan's room, knocked on his door, and said, "Dunk, I'm going to give up after tomorrow's innings," hoping that Dunk would say, no, Nasser, I worked with you for 5 years as captain. I need you. He went, "No, yeah, good idea. You can go. We need Strauss and Vaughan, and you can't play." So, because I knew it was my last day, it was like that Jack Nicklaus, you know, walk the fairway, smell the flowers, look around. I was looking around at people in the boxes and so busy I ran Strauss out. But I almost because you knew it was your last day, I told myself to enjoy it and really look forward to it and take in every moment. And I did feel in that zone that we're all looking for, that sports psychologists tell you about. Sometimes you just get it. You know, the double 100 against Australia at Edgbaston, for some reason I wasn't in great nick, but from first ball, just completely in the zone. You would not hear Warney or McGrath sledging you, or Mark Waugh, who I played with at Essex, taking the mick out of you or whatever. It's how you get, I think that's the most major part of sport. It's how you get that balance. You can, you know, golf, I'm sounding like McCullum, Key and Stokes now, but you can go on the driving range and smack as many as you want up the middle when you're on that first tee like that.
Yeah, well,
you know, and you've got to find the middle of the fairway. It's like you're shaking and,
and it's narrow.
Exactly, yeah.
You're going to whack somebody.
It's a whole professional, any sport actually is about mind game. Again, golf analogy, if you've got a fairway 300 yards wide, you'll every time bang, bang, bang. It goes like that, like you say. All you see is the trees, not the fairway.
Correct.
So the higher the level, mind games are the most important thing.
Yeah. When you say all of this and you talk about last game, and I know you say, "Oh, greatest job," or do you have any regret? Do you wish, or maybe not regret? Do you go, "Oh, I wish I could have felt that a few more times"?
Yeah, but you know you can't because of how I was. It probably made me the cricketer I was, that I felt so important about it and I took it so seriously. But I did look on and with envy with people like Goffey or Peterson or whoever that just go out there and love being centre stage. People are brought up to do that. There is also, it makes you, Andy Flower, I played with Andy at Essex, you know Andy very
Super
well.
cricketer.
Just incredible human being, individual. And he said to me once, all the work I do off the field just makes me feel a little bit better when I'm on the field. When I step on, I don't even just feel better than my opposition, I feel better than my teammates. And that for me always stuck with me, that if you're constantly pushing yourself off it's like an exam, that if you didn't revise for it and then you fail, you're like, I'd let myself down there. If you revised and did, if I worked hard and did everything to get runs that day, and Shane still rocks up and drifts one in and hits your top of off, at least I can go back to my hotel room that night and go, I did everything to prepare to get runs. But if you didn't go to the gym, you didn't have that net, optional nets, you didn't go in, and then Shane does it, you'll be like, I wonder if I'd had one more net if I could have played that delivery. So it is a difficult one, and getting that balance is spot on.
Yeah. Let's solve the problems of the world now.
Okay.
And perhaps a transition. It's been a long time since you're on the field, and I would like you to speak about the game and your observations and your experiences, sort of from where you start to kind of where it is now. So now in your capacity as a broadcaster, you sit there, you watch, you analyze, you have a thought, and then you kind of sometimes, I might be speaking more about myself than you, but whatever your process is, you kind of sometimes have to go, hold on, am I playing the same game here? Am I thinking about the same game? Has it changed? And speak about its evolution, you know?
Yeah, I know I quote him a lot, but you can show the amount of impact Duncan Fletcher had on me. I remember giving up that game at Lords, and then like 3 months later, hired by Sky, and I was on the outfield, and Dunk came across to me at Lords, at another game England were playing, and I was now a broadcaster, and he said, well done with the Sky job. He said, just remember, in 5 years' time, the game will not look like what it looks like now. Keep up to pace with the game. The game moves on very quickly, and if you're constantly saying, in my day, and this is not how you do it, and this, keep up to pace with the game. And within maybe 2 years, 3 years, like Kevin Peterson was batting against Scott Styris at Durham,
and
turns round left-handed and hits it out of the ground for 6 at Chestnut Street, one of the bigger grounds in England. And I remember thinking how hard it is to hit a 6. And this lad who's a right-hander has turned round left-handed and hit it for 6. And I thought of Duncan's comment then, this game is moving. And some of it's not changed that much. I wouldn't say slip catchers now are any better than slip catching in 20 years ago or whatever. But some of the hitting potential, I know the game, certain things have changed, which we can't go into everything, but some of the hitting potential of these cricketers, men and women, some of the fielding in the deep, those catches
on the back,
in the
just
deep.
like they make
I mean,
it.
can you imagine Gough and Caddick in the deep trying to pull off some of these catches?
They'll love you. They'll love you.
Opening half asleep, and like they couldn't catch it just on their own. Diving, flicking it back. Caddick would have been like that, looking, oh, all right, like that. So some of the catching in the deep, some of the fitness levels. It was coming in towards the end of my career. You'd play against South Africa, and we'd be on the treadmill a little bit, and Boucher and Callis would be lifting the gym off the floor. So it was the physique. You've got to be very careful if you take your top off around the pool nowadays. With some of the players around, they are built, they are stacked. So the fitness, the physique, and obviously the finances of the game has completely changed, and franchise cricket has come in. I think generally, I think you're the same. We're not a sort of in my day sort of people. The game has moved on. I do fear for Test match cricket a little bit, and because there's such a gap emerging between the haves and have-nots. I mean, we sit here at the moment, even in this tournament, we're at the Women's World Cup, and the top 3 are. I mean, South Africa actually, if they win now, could go above, but are England, Australia, India, and the haves and the have-nots. India are just about to beat the West Indies again, make it 2-0 in Test matches, men. And that's why this summer we just had was magnificent, South Africa. Coming across, World Test champions, Bavuma lifting the mace at Lords. It was just a magnificent, because we had Graham Smith on the podcast in England, and he was talking about broadcast and how much it costs to put a Test match on in South Africa. And South Africa is a great, forget cricketing, sporting nation. So to see them back where they deserve to be, and still the challenges, no Test match at home this year or however long it's going to be.
It is this year.
So there's a lot of challenges ahead, and I do think if it was just franchise cricket all year round, I think that would be a bit dull. I think I like having a Test match. I think you've asked for. Was it you that have asked for a Test match window?
I've spoken about it many times. I think I started speaking about it maybe 7 years ago, and it was because I was at IPL Chew the Cud with others, and I'd say, look at football. Invert everything like they do. You play for your club, and then you play for your country in a window. We're in a football window now, aren't we? And instead of it being 2 weeks, it can be 2 months. But since then, till now, the calendar seems that much smaller. But the idea itself, for me, seems almost like the only way it can kind of sustain Test match cricket. I want you to go with the haves and have-nots, and whether you think that actually can be solved. I mean, capitalist world and all of that.
I don't know. I'm honestly not bright enough to work out. I often just give out. I can't do solutions. I can do problems. I need brighter people than me to give solutions to me. I just know the end product is if India just keep beating, like Ahmedabad. I was brought up, my first Test match was the West Indies. I was brought up watching Viv's side, Clive Lloyd's side, that great sporting group of nations, the West Indies. And you look now, if it was just India beating everyone because they are the best at the moment. Them and Australia are just they deserve where they need to be and where they are because of the talent just coming through India at the moment is incredible. Kohli goes, Shubman Gill just comes in at 4 and gets runs for fun, whatever. So it is, if it's just, you can know the result of the game before it happens. These 2 test matches, once the coin has gone up and come down, I've looked at it and gone, I think this is what will happen in the game.
Right.
India will, first game, West Indies will get 250, India will get 500, West Indies will get 200, and that's pretty much right. This time, a little bit more, West Indies have got a few more, second time round, 400 or whatever. But that sport needs to be a place where you turn up and you don't know the result before a ball. Even in the Women's World Cup we're working on now, we're yet to have any kind of upset. I think sport needs upsets and it needs like that, wow, that really happened today. We're not getting enough of that at the moment. That's why, I mean, it's fine. India played England in the summer.
It's brilliant.
Brilliant series.
Yeah.
Incredible series. Packed houses, great cricket, very watchable, bit of needle between the sides. But that's how it used to be all the time. You know.
Or do we glamorize that? Is it one of those kind of
it was slightly different. We used to get hammered by Australia all the time, but Zimbabwe, what a side Zimbabwe were. I'm not just saying it because you were here.
Yes, you are.
That Zimbabwe side, Zimbabwe side, you know, there was no, I'm sounding like in my day now, having said don't be like him, there was no easy game.
Right.
There was no, we're sat here in Sri Lanka, you telling me that this little island, if you produce some of the greatest cricketers of all time, so there was no easy game. When I was playing test match cricket, there was no simple game where you knew maybe when we played Australia, you knew the result before it actually happened. But apart from that, you had to work out what the result was going to be.
Yeah, that seems so bleak. I said solve the problems.
No,
I didn't say
I'll let you solve it.
I didn't say create them. But yeah, talk leadership. Why are you not an administrator?
I could not think of anything worse than being an administrator.
Really?
Yeah. Could not think of anything worse than being the one I've thought about a bit is coaching. But
have you coached?
No. Coach the school side or something like that. But even that, I'm kicking bin. I'm doing a Justin Langer, kicking the bin over or whatever. I don't know how all these coaches sit there. You know, Bayliss sits there with his glasses. Brendan McCullum sits there with his feet up. Duncan just sat there, floppy hat on, glasses. How you've got to stay like that as a coach. I'd be a bit more Ferguson, hairdryer, kicking things over or whatever. How? Because the game goes like that. Performances go like that. I do think as a coach, you have to stay pretty even. So when I first gave up, I thought about that side. But to be honest, I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, to be honest. Talking a good game, you don't have to solve problems.
Pointing out problems rather than solve them.
Yeah.
And tell me why you enjoy broadcast and how you've kept your zest for it, because those who are out there will agree with me that each time you turn out, I'm not blowing smoke up here, every time I watch anyway, you have an interest in what you're doing, not just from a I'm doing my job perspective, because you can tell that with people. So why is it you?
Well, firstly, the hardest bit, as you will know, is when you stop playing and you're not in a team environment anymore. The best bit is being in a dressing room. And the hardest bit is when you leave that dressing room and there's a lot of emptiness to fill. So I was very lucky that Sky came to me immediately and said, here's a job. And then I looked in that new dressing room and it had 2 of my childhood heroes in Gower and Botham.
Yeah.
Bob Willis. Bob was just magnificent to work with. And then Bumble, who was my coach, he'd umpire, had done everything in the game, one of the great guys I've ever been with. And Ath, who I've known since England schools under 11s days. So it was like just going into another dressing room. So that I felt very comfortable in. And I think the next bit of your question would be just, I think we both still love the game, whatever game, wherever you are, you rock up, under 19 game, whatever game you're doing, just love the game of cricket and I like sort of seeing the impact on individuals. I did the game the other day where Marufa Akhtar was running in and bowling and getting
Yeah.
England players out, these serious England cricketers that are on big contracts and franchise deals. And there's this young woman, just a girl maybe, she's 20, young woman, that from a quiet, sleepy town in northern Bangladesh is here. And it's a life-changing tournament, a moment, and you hope franchises are watching and give her that opportunity to change her life and make money for the family and herself or whatever. So I like the stories behind the game of cricket, really.
Yeah.
So I have to say I'm, you know, like test matches still completely get my juices going. I love ICC events because it is country against country. So anytime England is playing a game of cricket, I said to you when we started this pod or whatever, you know, playing for your country is important. So if you're commentating on a game that your country is playing in, you should make it feel like and sound like it is important.
Yeah. A sport, society, the world, societal norms and changes, and kind of how we fit. And cricket and its sort of journey along that or in that, it's not separate to it, everything happens together. Speak maybe about the different places, and I know England's where you are mainly, but its impact on English life. And I know that's very vague as a statement. I don't know what English life is, but from your perspective, does it impact society or not?
It depends what the sport is, and it depends who's playing the sport. And that's why in England we haven't quite, and I said it in a recent podcast about the 100, hasn't quite grabbed the attention yet of the English public, because in England we love our clubs. So, and you have to look at and it's an unfair comparison,
Right.
because football has been going on forever and the history of football or whatever. I have mates, or I'll have a mate, Paul Newman, who I used to work with, journalist, but he's a
Yes.
friend.
Yes.
If Tottenham lose, he won't speak to me for a month.
Especially if they lose to Arsenal.
If they lose to Arsenal, he won't speak for a year. So there's the impact it has. You know, a game of football. I know what I'm like with Arsenal, and a penalty decision doesn't go their way, and I can't watch the last, when it's now 8 minutes of added time and they're 1-0 up. I cannot watch it. I cannot watch it. I have to go back and hear if my boy's shouting at the TV or not
Right.
shouting. So sport is a huge, huge impact on society, wherever. That game at Lord's, South Africa.
Oh.
The South African fans that came in and leaving Lord's that every evening of that World Test Championship final, and seeing the South African fans and the Australian fans, but seeing the smile, and they all stayed at the end, it has a huge impact. A rugby game between South Africa and England, or South Africa and Australia, or whatever, it has a huge impact. This Ashes, people will be waking up at 3 a.m, like going, please don't let us be 20 for 2 again. Please let Root have 100. So my point being is that it does have that impact, but in England you can't sort of make it up. You can't. It has to have a bit of history to it, and then hence these franchises have to try and create a bit of history to it. I have to say, SA20 seem to have done it very well. Have been, you know, IPL, different world completely. Did it first, moved brilliantly, but SA20 out the recent ones. I speak to all the commentators and all the players. I've not had a bad word said about that tournament. People really enjoy it. So it can be done, but I don't think it can just be false. It can't just be another game of cricket. Sometimes I put my TV on and there's a franchise game going on somewhere in the world, Canada or somewhere, and it's like I'm in the gym and I'm like, who's playing who? And who does he play for now? And wasn't he playing for someone else yesterday? And that, for me, there has to be a bit of sort of history and loyalty to it. But you can create that over time, I guess.
Okay, final, second last. I want to know what impact you and your journey has on your family. And I'm going to just ask it just like that, so you go wherever you want.
Well, I can... But my past family, huge impact on mum and dad in particular. You know, just like I mentioned about the sacrifices they made, leaving India, going to England, and it was just for education of the family. My mum's English, dad was Indian, So that moment, if anyone asked me what was your favourite moment as a cricketer, it would be ringing my dad saying, I'm England cricket captain, you know. Having been on the outfield at the Chepauk Stadium, Madras, just playing on the outfield while my dad was having a whiskey inside or whatever, to then 20 years later ringing him up and saying, right, I'm captain of England. So the impact and make it all feel worthwhile, the sacrifices. Present family, they don't give a monkey. Honestly, as long as Arsenal are winning or Chelsea are winning, and I come back home at some stage, they're not that bothered. But I have to say the impact was going back.
Going back.
Yeah.
And none of your kids play cricket?
One does. One plays club cricket, really enjoys it. The other one's football. Daughter played until recently. She's now at University Durham. She doesn't play anymore. So I think it's a tricky one. I think that's where Ath manages it very well with his boy.
Yeah.
His boy, Josh, is a superb player at Middlesex. And that sort of staying in, and obviously I see him, he says, well, what's Middlesex score? I say, Josh has got 80. He's like, oh, is he really? And then I've seen him watching every ball go, like that. It's like, but, you know, that balance between
former captain of England and dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think he gets it pretty much spot on. So there's quite, it seems to be a history, doesn't it? I mean, like Broad and Bairstow, and there's a long line of, it's in the blood, basically.
Freddie now.
Yeah, exactly. Varney's kid. Yeah, it's in the blood. I guess if you're growing up and your dad's playing cricket all the time and he's on the telly all the time or whatever, and he's talking cricket all the time or whatever, then there's a good chance that you'll pick up the game of cricket.
You either go towards it or you go the opposite
absolutely,
direction.
Yeah, good point. Excellent point. Yeah.
Okay, and there was one more I forgot because that was quite interesting actually. Yeah, I was because some of that.
You started this saying I've got a terrible memory. You've
forgotten
the last question.
I was thinking about right now. Because I was listening to that, going, oh yeah, and then I started thinking about kids and
You're supposed to be thinking now.
Oh yeah, I am. That is what I'm doing. We're talking about something else whilst I do it. Yeah, final question. If I said to you, just as a prominent person, you don't think of yourself as that, right? But you are, like a voice in the game. If you looked around and kind of, maybe it's a bugbear, maybe it's something you think about, maybe it's something you see all the time, and I said, what would you change in our game? What would it be?
It's not until you have kids and you spend all week going online to get an Arsenal ticket or whatever ticket, and you see the build-up of expectation and, Dad, when are we going, when are we leaving, when are we going to get there, who's playing, is he fit, is she fit, and you go and you watch the game and you leave. That's when you're playing, you don't understand that for a fan. So what winds me up a little bit are the things that you feel like you're shortchanging a fan. Because when you're playing, you are so like that.
Yeah, you don't care who's watching.
You don't care about the overrate. Yeah. You'll get done a few quid in your pocket or whatever, but you're playing. Yeah. You don't care about going off for bad light. You don't care if it's a bit wet and you're saying to the umpire, that's a bit slippery, we'll go in. If you're playing nearly every day of this summer and the umpire says, we'll go in for a couple of hours, we'll go in for I'll have a coffee and a biscuit.
Come on, the joke.
When you're on the other side and you've seen the love of the game and the expectation, I'm going to a game of cricket or football or whatever. I wish I'd had that earlier. So now I would ask players, if you can stay on, stay on. If you can speed up the overrate, speed up the overrate. If the lights thing wind me up, I have to be honest. Try and explain to, I don't know,
turning on the lights and going off.
An American who's not watched a game of cricket comes over, they sit there till 6 o'clock, there's been a rain delay till 4:30, they finally get a bit of cricket, they switch the lights on and they go off. And he turns to you and says, what are they going off for? And you go, it's too dark. What are the lights for then? So, and I do get it. Butch always has a go at me about this because Butchies are very much like a red ball under light snatch. You know that's tricky. So if there could be a solution to the go off when the lights are on for bad light, I'd love that. So those little things that you don't think about as a player, I think once you finish, you do think about them quite a bit.
Okay, I think we'll leave it there. I appreciate this. Thanks.
No worries, mate. Anything for you, Pom?
Thanks
Good
a
man.
lot. Yeah, former England captain, now captain in the commentary box. He is. He's captain of everyone.
Righto.
But But I must say, you're a bit ditzy. You have been on this trip.
I have, yeah. I've had a shocker.
You've had a shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Visa, passport, glasses, various things have just not quite gone how it should.
Yeah, we're looking after him a bit. Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks, Pom.
Yeah. Cheers.